Early in the morning, mid-March. I still have a little bit of the field to plow, and it's supposed to start raining in a couple hours, so that's not great. See what I can get done in a couple hours. I forget how fast this turns. Still have my plow hooked up. I did spray it down so that none of the mud or poop would get caked on overnight. But as you can see, this section's done. It's done all the way up to this. Just this section left. Like I mentioned, I actually really like plowing. I don't know what it is. It's just so chill. Let's go there. It's a great time to watch videos or listen to a book or pretty much anything. And a lot of times don't even use the GPS or the BCA, partially because it's it's just awkward with the offset. I find I can get it usually done quicker without using it because it just seems to overlap. And it's really hard to set up myself anyway. But I still like looking at the my angle so that it's easier to make sure you line up on the other side too. So that was 230, so that would be 50 to go this way. Might be overlapping a little too much. It looks actually about perfect. Now, depending on what you're using to turn, it might be harder to try to keep on the right angle. And I don't remember what brand it is, but I know the Xbox controllers that were for the 360 were a lot harder to get the exact degree because it moved too much. The ones for the Xbox One, I find it's not a Microsoft controller, but it's one made to work with Xbox One. Hoping I can get this done, and then I'm also hoping there's some good contracts to take after it's done raining. Because I do want to get that disc arrow soon. And there's a few that I can choose from, but I definitely don't want the 1 meter one. Yeah, I definitely went too far in on this one. But I would like to get that done, get the disc harrows so I can get field 9 lined and cultivated, and then cultivate this one just so that there's a better seed bed. I know it technically also resets precision farming to be shallow tillage instead of plow, but that's actually not why I'm doing it. I just find it weird to just go from plowed to seeded or planted or whatever, crop in the ground. And I have to decide what I'm planting. It's almost certainly going to be corn. I do have the planter, so there's not, that limits me to, what are the corn, sunflowers, soybeans, canola, or sugar beets. I believe those are the choices. Definitely not ready to do sugar beets. Don't want to do canola. If I'm going to do sunflowers, I would want to do it, get those planted this month. I already have a header for corn or sunflowers, but it's not like getting a new header by the time beans would be ready would be too bad of a problem. I'm going to need to get a tipper by then too. But either of those, let's see, corn would be if I planted it in April, that would be ready in October. And then I could get wheat or barley in. Sunflowers, if I planted it now, it could be ready in October, and then I could get wheat or barley in. If I plant it next month, then it wouldn't be ready till November, so then I only have wheat as a choice. Soybeans are the same as corn. I'm probably gonna go with corn. The thing with corn is then I'm gonna have to plow next year as well, because you have to plow after corn. To corn, root crops, and sugar cane, I think. Although nobody does sugar cane, so I guess that one doesn't even matter. I didn't even look at if the, because I didn't play for a while, I didn't look to see if the sugarcane stuff was fixed. I know there was a problem with at least one of the harvesters. But that definitely wouldn't be what I would be going for, so tend to do this back and forth on each side until it starts getting too far apart, and then I'll go up and down one side, or up one side and down the edge, depending on the field shape and such. So I don't usually have to worry about turning the plow until that point, which is actually probably maybe one more. Yeah, I think I'll do one more like this, and then I will finish on this left side, and then I'll just have the right side. Now I believe that this map also can give you straw from corn or beans. I'd have to, I didn't look too far into it. I know it was highly suggested, like on forums and stuff. I know a lot of people love it. and I did a lot of driving around, setting up parts of auto drive before the update to make sure I liked it, see how it worked on performance, because that was one of my big problems on Middleburg is the performance. I have a pretty decent GPU, and I just had to keep turning down settings, and I was still getting stuttering. And I tried I tried on a new save. I tried taking out the olive groves and the vineyards like people suggested, and I was still getting stuttering. Like I can deal with losing some FPS here and there, but that and I was finding I was going in. I mean I do have that problem. I like building my own, even if I'm not like amazing. I still like building my own, and that meant I didn't have that many options for where to start, but more importantly, it meant that there was a lot of useless buildings that were taking up um, things. It's not really a problem with the map, just a problem with my playstyle. It was my favorite part of 19 was the fact that I didn't have to find a map that I loved the vineyard in. It was always one of the worst parts, and well, I'm gonna say especially 15 because I had a really crappy computer, so I couldn't play a lot of maps. So it's even more limiting. I had to find one that I actually liked. I can't even remember the name of one I really, really liked. I'd have to look it up. I know it's by someone that most people would know, but it was one of my favorite parts about 19 was the fact that I didn't need to find one that I liked as much as I needed to find one that liked the vibe of the map and then make it my own. I have about an hour left before the rain. Then it'll be a little while of the rain before I can then look at contracts. I'm going to need to put some fuel in this tractor. I'm also going to need to buy fertilizer. I don't know if there's any fertilizer contracts, but I don't have any fertilizer. And those are obviously usually good contracts to get. So I think while it's raining, I will bring my fertilizer spreader down to Tractor Supply, and that way I can get fuel and some fertilizer. Pretty sure that this has a better price on fertilizer than say than Middleburg. I'm pretty sure it was 224 per 1,000 liters at the Fox Farms in Middleburg, which means 500 or 448 per 2,000. When the shop can give you 2,000 per 500, so not much of a, or 450, so not much of a deal. Oh. But I think that this one is a lot better than a deal. Not positive though. I do remember I looked at it. Okay, I'm almost there. Oh, it was the line I looked at. That's the fourth. It was definitely the line I was saying all that about. So I assume that the fertilizer would also be 1160. How much is fertilizer here? 1920. So if you just put lime in front of all the things I said first, that's totally what I meant. Was I was assuming that the fertilizer would be a pretty decent deal because I know the lime was a better deal than it was in Middleburg. I'm not in this furrow here. I'm getting to 230. Just a tiny little bit right there. Then I can go work on the next little semicircle. Nope, the rain has started. I mean, that's good timing though. Let me get off this part of the field so that I can really look at the map at that. So beautiful. Okay, let's get to the vineyard. We have that little section right there too. But I can get to that all this afternoon. Rain is gone. So I can finish my field, hopefully. Just have a little bit here, and then that semicircle up ahead, and then a big section over there. And then this field will be plowed, and it's already had manure thrown on it. So this one We'll just be waiting for seed bed prep and then putting seeds in. Okay, I'm pretty much done. I might try running across those edges. And by might, I mean I am going to try to run across those edges. I'm not too worried if it doesn't work, but I'm gonna try. Let's see. Okay, I got rid of most of the dots. It's two tiny little dots. I'm okay with that. Okay, I want to turn it the other way. And then I just have to spray my my plow down, put it away, and then I can look at contracts.